Today we're going to talk about chasing tennis balls. You know, one of the things that we do in life is chase tennis balls. Drew Houston, the creator of Dropbox, which is an application that business people use all around the world, spoke to the MIT class, graduating class recently, and he talked about chasing your tennis ball, chasing the thing that really grabs you, just like a dog chases a tennis ball when you throw it in the air and you see them run down the beach or run down the street to find that tennis ball. Hi, I'm John Schol, a bishop in the United Methodist Church serving the greater New Jersey area. And today we continue in our sermon series about loving God and what passion looks like in our relationship with God. Today we talk about being crazy in love with God. And when we think about being crazy in love with God, we think about passion and the passion that rises up within us. Now, the Bible story that you heard today is a story of passion. It's a story actually of two passionate people. It's not that one's passionate and the other isn't passionate. It's really a story about two very passionate people. The first passionate person is the Pharisee, Simon. Now, Jesus goes to Simon's house, a Pharisee. Many people say, oh, this is rather strange, Jesus going to a Pharisee's house. But that's not true at all. Jesus connected with all kinds of people. As a matter of fact, he would have been a hypocrite if he only connected with non-Pharisees. But Jesus often connected with Pharisees and ate with them. And Pharisees were people who studied the law. They studied everything about God's law and tried to follow everything that God wanted them to do that was in the law. Simon was passionate about following the law. And one of the things he was really passionate about was righteousness, being a righteous person. And what does it look like to be a righteous person? Who are righteous people? And this is where Simon's passion gets in his own way. He becomes judgmental of others, and his judgmentalness actually creates separation. And so he begins to judge the woman because she's a woman from the street and she's not always been righteous in her living. And so Simon begins to judge her, and he begins to make judgments about her. And what he actually does is creates division between certainly himself and this woman, but even more importantly, he begins to create divisions between himself and God, because he doesn't love all people just as they are. He begins to create divisions between other people and God because he judges them in a way that creates division. Simon's passion actually got in the way of his love for God. Now, that may sound strange. We often think passion is a good thing and that we ought to be passionate people. Well, I'm not saying lose your passion, but what I'm saying is be careful of the tennis ball you're chasing, because it may not always be the right tennis ball. So one of the things I want to say today about passion and loving God deeply is that passion is sometimes overrated. Oh, don't misunderstand me. Love without passion is like a dish rag. It's not really exciting. But if all our love for God is only dependent on our passion, not our intellect, not our thinking, not our discernment of what God is all about, but just what we feel at the moment, the emotion of the moment, then I'm not sure that's the right thing. Matter of fact, I was worshiping with a group of people not too long ago, and they were passionate people. They were passionate in their worship, but they also are conflicted people. They're conflicted about what God is calling them to do. They've placed all of their understanding and all of their passion in worship, but haven't gotten connected with the people in the community and the real needs that the people in the community have. And so what they've done is they've insulated themselves from the rest of the world. And they've huddled together as a worshiping community and cut off the outside world. That's not the kind of passion, the kind of love, that I'm talking about here today. I'm talking about a love that really runs deep. So let's think about chasing that tennis ball. And what does that really look like? For Simon, his passion about righteousness, he lost a sense of forgiveness, a sense of deep love, a sense of deep caring for other people. He also lost his way in determining what he should really be focusing on. And sometimes we get so focused on one thing that we miss the other thing, the thing that God may really want us to see. I just came back from Cuba. It's a fascinating place. It's an amazing time to go and visit this nation. You know, for so long, we've had strained relationships with Cuba, date back into the late 1950s and 1960s. And if you remember, they were going to put missiles in Cuba. Russia was going to put missiles in Cuba. And that just created strained relationship with us in Cuba. And now that relationship is beginning to warm up. And we're beginning to see people go to Cuba. I went to Cuba to learn more about the culture and learn more about what the church is doing there. And one of the fascinating things that I'm seeing is that the culture and the people are beginning to change as they're opening up to new people and opening up to letting people start their own businesses. Cuba is a socialist nation. It believes in equality, equal for all people. Try to equalize salaries, try to equalize health care for all people, education for all people. They want everybody to be equal. But one of the things they miss in their equality is quality. And so sometimes things aren't very good in what they're producing or how they're interacting with each other or the things that they do. And so they have this great equality, but sometimes it's missing the quality. Now in the United States, I kind of actually see things just the opposite that happens in the United States, that we're so interested in quality, that we want quality in healthcare, we want quality in all of these different things. We want the best. We want all that we can get in life because it will bring us quality life. Well, and sometimes we miss equality. That there are people that don't have health care. There are people that don't get education. There are people who don't have the opportunities of others. And so one of the things that I think in finding the right tennis ball to chase is really bringing a blend and a balance. That's what God really wants. You see, Jesus wasn't saying that this woman was perfect. He just wasn't going to judge her on her past, but look at her in what was possible for her future, what was possibly going to happen. And that's what Simon missed. His passion was so much based on her past that he never saw the opportunity that God had for her future. He never saw the possibility. Passionate love for God is about recognizing reality, but also seeing the God possibility of the future. I like dogs, and I love watching dogs on the beach sometimes, or dogs playing in the street. And you know, their owner will throw a tennis ball, and they'll chase that tennis ball hour after hour, and unless another dog comes by. And you throw the tennis ball, and they're running, and all of a sudden they stop and go see the other dog. Or sometimes they're running down, and all of a sudden something catches their eye, and they begin to look at that. Passion that gets so focused on just one thing is missing out on life. I would even dare to say is missing out on God. So Jesus told Simon a story. He said, there were two people, Simon. One owed a lot to their master. The other owned just very little. The master forgave both. Which one do you think loved the master more? Simon said, oh, the one who was forgiven much. The point was this. Here's a woman who has been forgiven of much, and look at her love. You see, Simon, when I came into your house, you gave me no kiss, you didn't bathe my feet, you didn't give me oil, all the things of hospitality. But this woman, who has been forgiven of much, has bathed me with her tears, has not stopped kissing my feet, has not stopped showing me radical hospitality. Simon, in God's eyes, which do you think God sees as more loving? You know, that's the real question for us today. The real question for us today is, are you indebted to God? Does your righteousness get in the way of loving God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your mind? Does your wanting to be so right miss the point that God's love is wide and open? You know, if you're missing that, maybe you're not indebted to God enough. This week, I want you to think about, what's the tennis ball you're chasing? Is it one that opens you up to possibility, or is your passion closing you down to opportunity? Is your passion cultivated over time, or is it an instant and a moment? Is your passion driven by your love for God or your own righteousness and what you believe is right? Go, be passionate, and love God with all the fullness, and see God in all people, that your passion might be known to others. Amen.